Good morning, WOW TV viewers. My name is Maria, and you're watching another segment of the Georgia Strait Weekly with our chief editor, Charlie Smith. How are you doing today?
Very well, thanks, Maria.
I'm doing very well as well. So on the cover of this week's issue, it's called the Fall Feast, and it's officially October, and everything is pumpkin flavored, and we're ready for Thanksgiving. So what is the story on this?
Well, you'll see on the cover we've got Vanessa Bourget, who's of Exile Bistro, and she's one of several chefs who are in this issue talking about the fall harvest and how to whip up some outstanding Thanksgiving dinners using all the fresh vegetables. And one of the things that's happening now is cauliflower. They're saying it's the new kale, that cauliflower is being used much more often and it's becoming an in vegetable. And so we had chefs from Oakwood Bistro and Vanessa and others who were commenting on that. In addition, we had a big article by Carolyn Ali, who's our food editor, on beer and craft beers for the fall. Vancouver has a very thriving craft beer community, and many new breweries have opened in the past, basically about the past 3 years. So we see Bomber Brewing, and there's a House Sound Brewing is one of the older ones. The oldest is Granville Island Brewing, but lots of independent local breweries have popped up. So Carolyn has some recommendations there. Our cooking columnist, Michelle De Silva, has something on mushrooms and how to use them, which is quite popular in the fall. And then Curtis Colt is our wine writer, and Curtis has gone over some fall wine selections.
That sounds great and very delicious. I've also heard that craft breweries are coming up with incredible flavors, such as pumpkin flavored for the fall. How important is it to use vegetables that are in season?
Yeah, it's very interesting, the craft beers. I'll deal with that first, because there was one beer that Carolyn focused, which uses spruce tips. So it's like they make beer out of the tip of a tree. And so when I saw this spruce tip beer, I was wondering, could this be beer made out of a tree? But yes, it is. So that was one of the ones. I think what's happening in the beer area is they're getting very creative. Some of the beers the craft beers can be quite strong, like they have a very powerful taste. So I remember when craft beer phenomenon first started, that people weren't really used to having beer with that much flavor. But now it seems tastes are changing. Although some of them, like if you look at Central City Brewers and Distillers, they've come out with this lighter beer for cyclists. So if you're going on your long bicycle ride, you stop by and you have a beer, and they've crafted a beer that is designed for people who are exercising. So
Is it less calories than usual beer?
I'm not sure what the caloric count is, but Central City is an interesting local brewery, because they've got a distillery, so they can make vodka on the premises. And this is in North Surrey, where they've set up this big plant, and they're one of the bigger players among the local craft brewers, and they're actually starting to export into the U.S. and into Eastern Canada. So this is the thing. Some of them stay small, and they're these nano breweries, they're called, and then they get to be micro breweries. And then when they become like a Central City, they're still an independent local brewery, but their reach is extending further. So what's happened is the market share for the craft beers has gone up sharply in urban areas, not so much kind of in the 250 area code, apart from Victoria, where they're very popular as well. But certainly in Vancouver and in the Lower Mainland, I've heard estimates that's anywhere from 20 to 30% of the market share. So this is posing a challenge for the traditional breweries, like the Molson Coors, or these big global breweries that are selling Budweiser and things like that. Yeah.
So you definitely gave me an idea of what I'm going to be doing this weekend, of visiting a craft beer place to get something. But what's also happening this weekend is something called the Water Edge Day, and you were talking to Christiana, and she was talking about some issues in an event regarding the waterfront. So could you expand on this?
Yes, this is something the Georgia Strait Alliance does, which is not connected to the Georgia Strait newspaper. The Georgia Strait Alliance is an environmental organization that focuses on marine issues in and around Georges Strait. So that's the body of water between Vancouver Island and the lower mainland. So what they're doing is they're trying to get people more interested in the waterfront. We're doing a lot of things, kind of Vancouver's greenest city, and doing things on land, like promoting more cycling, having greener buildings. So they would like to see more of this happening on the water and at the water's edge. So this weekend they're having a big event on Sunday down at the Vancouver Maritime Museum is where it's based, but there's also activities at Science World and other places to draw attention to the waterfront so people can take free canoe trips, Tsleil-Waututh Canoe, which is the First Nation on the North Shore, out onto the water. There's a lecture on by John Atkin, who's a local historian, talking about the history of the waterfront. And the goal is to engage citizens, and where it's leading to is there's going to be a big public forum in the spring. They've had a couple of these waterfront forums, one at UBC Robson Square, one at SFU Harbor Center, to bring together various people like landscape architects, the Port of Vancouver, people with an interest in the waterfront, environmental groups. But I think Georges Strait Alliance wants to expand it to bring more of the public in. And the goal is to try to determine which areas of the waterfront should be for recreation, which areas for work, which areas for different activities. And it's based on an idea that's been implemented in New York City, which is this maritime organization that brings together all these different stakeholders to determine how the waterfront is dealt with there.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And Christiana also mentions that this topic is really, really important in the current day right now because of climate change.
Yes, this is something, in 2006, we had some incredible storms actually that, you can never tell if one storm is related to climate change or what role climate change may be having. It's certainly the rising sea levels is having an effect on storm surge. So then what happens is the sea levels rise and you get these storms coming in. When they're banging against concrete, like the seawall, they actually have the capacity to cause damage because of the way the physics of water hitting a hard surface. So what we've seen at Jericho, where they redid the area there, they've made a much softer shore so that if there are storms and there's storm surge, it won't have the same effect. And so one of the things Christiane Wilhelmsen is trying to start a discussion about is how do we kind of deal with our shoreline in a way that is going to be more accommodating of these extreme weather events, which are increasingly common in an era of climate changes, greenhouse gas emissions increase in the atmosphere.
Oh, for sure. And who is this initiative funded by?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of foundations behind it, as well as members of Georges Strait Alliance. So you have things like the Vancouver Foundation, the Bullitt Foundation, RBC Dominion has this kind of this environmental fund. They're offering some funding. There's actually quite a few sources of funding behind this. So it's a broadly based initiative that's basically what I see Georges Strait Alliance doing is playing the role of the facilitator to bring people together. So they're not really advancing their ideas, but they want to just create the table that people can sit around to discuss, and people who may not normally come in contact with one another.
Or get a word out.
Yeah, and also the issue with the marine environment is it's not something that a city council deals with because it crosses boundaries. So somebody has to do it. And what Georges Strait Alliance is hoping is that Metro Vancouver may adopt a similar approach, because Metro Vancouver is all the municipalities in the region. Right now it's basically confined to Vancouver.
Very cool.